Hey mamas, can we talk about bounce back culture tonight? Because honestly, it is toxic AF. It has us out here feeling so crap about our bodies when we literally just grew and birthed a whole nother human. So we don't need to bounce back. We need to rest, heal, and reconnect to our bodies. In this live, I'm going to be sharing the truth about bounce back culture and what we should be doing instead. So, thank you so much for joining me. If you don't know who I am, I'm Devin. I am the admin and creator of this group and this mommy yoga community. I'm a wife and a mama. I have a 4-year-old and a 15-month-old. And they are super excited for Halloween. My 4-year-old daughter is being a pig, and my son is being a seahorse. I'm being a rainbow unicorn, and my husband is going to be a bull. So we're doing an animal theme. And I have 2 pumpkins. I'm going to carve one. I usually like to carve them what my kids are being for their costume. At least now when things are a little bit less complicated. Who knows about going forward, right? But we have 2. We have a white one and an orange one. And the orange one, my daughter wants that one to be the pig. And the white one, if you're unfamiliar, the significance of a white pumpkin is that you have lost a baby. And that's important, I feel, to bring up in pregnancy and infant loss awareness month, because my first pregnancy, if you haven't heard my story before, was resulted in a stillbirth. And so every year I try my best to get a white pumpkin to honor our little angel. And last year it was really tough, and I ended up getting a pink pumpkin instead, which was pink's my favorite color, so I loved that. And it was the closest one to white I could find, but this year I found a very, very nice white pumpkin that has a really cool squiggly stem. So that one's going to be the seahorse one. And I haven't quite decided yet if I'm going to carve out the whole seahorse or if I'm going to do the dots. But anyways, that's enough Halloween talk for now. Let me tell you a bit about myself. So I have been teaching yoga for over 15 years. And when I started this motherhood chapter of my life, I really wanted to incorporate my teachings and things I've learned about motherhood, and that's where mommy yoga came into play. So I think it's probably easy to assume that I have experience with bounce back culture because of being a mother. And how I strongly disagree with it. So stick around till the end. I'm going to be giving some tips about, I'm going to give 3 actionable tips about how you can move forward instead of worrying about bouncing back. And if you are more concerned about your body image, then stick around for the 3rd one, because that's the one you're probably going to be most interested in. So let's get into it. So what is bounce back culture? I'm sure you've heard of it, but if you haven't, it is the expectation that the very unrealistic, might I add, expectation that women who have given birth should return to the way they looked pre-pregnancy. That is the term bouncing back. And some people can maintain that, or I don't want to say go back to, because I do not believe in going back. So they can move forward and look a heck of a lot like they did pre-pregnancy. And usually those people get praised, like they're some like beacon of what a pregnant woman or a newly postpartum woman should look like or aspire to. And let me tell you that this can happen for a number of reasons. So the first reason is genetics. If that's just how you are, then that's just how you are. Great. It can also happen because maybe you were very, very fit pre-pregnancy and you stayed very active during pregnancy, and hopefully not because you were worried about your body image, but more because that's your lifestyle and that's something you love to do. That can make it a little bit easier to get into that kind of shape postpartum. It can also be because of the amount of pregnancies you've had. So I'll tell you my little story with that. So after my first pregnancy, which I mentioned was a loss, it was at 29 weeks, and I had a very small bump, and that can happen a lot of times, especially for your first pregnancy. You don't pop until much later, and like if I wanted to hide that pregnancy, it would have been very easy with just some oversized clothing. And then I gave birth, and then literally the next day I looked like I did pre-pregnancy. And that was something that kind of pissed me off. And let me tell you why. So a lot of people don't know what to say to you when that happens. It's such a tragedy, and in my experience with loss and tragedy, people want to help you. They want to say something, and they don't always know what to say. So a lot of people ended up saying, well, at least you look great, or at least you lost all the baby weight, or you're so lucky you look this way. And I got the so lucky comment a couple of times, and that really bothered me because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm so lucky my baby's not here with me. Like, I'd rather be way fat and have my baby with me, you know what I mean? So people, that was my gut reaction. But my logical reaction, because I've had other losses in my life, is they don't know what to say. They're trying to make me feel better in any way that they can. So of course I was never mad at the people who said that, but it was just like my automatic thinking was like, what? That's so completely stupid. Like, think before you speak. And so, yes, you can look that way after having, after your first pregnancy, because your body is like, it kind of like goes back to, and like I said before, I don't want to say going back, but it kind of knows to go back to how it was because that's all your body kind of knew. But going forward, so I've had 3 pregnancies. So I got pregnant with my daughter 5 months after my loss, and I started showing much earlier than my first pregnancy, and my body did not recover as quickly after I gave birth to her, and it was still like a very easy recovery for me, like barely any pain, and with the pain medication and stuff. But it took like maybe a few weeks for like maybe like 2 to 3 weeks, if I remember, to like not look like I was still a little bit pregnant. And then maybe like a few months to look like I did pre-pregnancy. And that didn't bother me at all. And I was like, I'm thankful, like this is, my body did that work and people could see it. And like some people can feel really bothered by that fact because they're like, oh my God, I just want to look like I did pre-pregnancy. But for me, I was like, yes, I've been through the ringer and this is what I look like and I'm proud of it. Like I'm so proud of my body for like growing this baby to term and her being healthy and being here, you know. That's kind of where my headspace is postpartum. And it's like I do not care about bouncing back because I'm like honey, I was pregnant. Like it took 9 months to cook the baby. I am not gonna look like I did in like 2 weeks, okay? And that's something like that I haven't always had that mindset. Definitely not in my younger years. Then my third pregnancy, I swear I started showing like before I even took a pregnancy test. Like I know that's not true, but that is how it felt. Like I felt so bloated and I was so not surprised when the pregnancy test was positive. And that is like I hid my pregnancy with my daughter because I had such anxiety after my first pregnancy. I didn't want to tell anybody about it. I just needed like to hibernate and be cared for by like my inner circle with my son. I could not hide it if I wanted to. I started showing like so quickly, and like he was my biggest baby. He was my easiest like recovery, easiest, and like I my like I don't know, like the swelling or whatever it is. I still looked like a little bit pregnant for a few weeks after. I remember taking my daughter to an early on center. I don't know how many weeks I was. Like I must have been like 4 weeks postpartum. And somebody asked me how far along I was, and I was like 4 weeks postpartum. And she looked mortified. But like in my head, I was like, man, that comment would have wrecked me in my 20s. But like having gone through what I went through, I'm like, yeah, my body did all that work and I'm recovering and I'm a freaking warrior. Okay. So like my first tip for that is to recognize, first of all, what your body type is. So if you are the type who's always been very fit or very lean without even trying, then you're probably going to look a certain way or be able to achieve that certain aesthetic pretty easily, pretty quickly after. But also knowing what pregnancy you're on. If it's your first one, you might be able to get there quicker. If it's your third or beyond, like it might take a little bit more time. It's almost like your body is like, as soon as you get pregnant, your body's like, oh yeah, I know where to put these organs and stuff. And then when you're recovering, it's like, oh, we've been through a lot, okay? You're gonna have to give us some time. So that's my experience with, personally, I found like the first pregnancy, I was able to look literally the day after giving birth like I did pre-pregnancy. And with Felix, like my third baby, It took a long time. I still don't look the way I did pre-pregnancy, and I don't care. So that brings me to my second tip, and it's not just don't care, because that takes a lot of work. That takes a lot of inner work. Um, but my second tip is to change your mindset. And I'm not saying to not care, because that is a big deal for a lot of people, and that's valid. Your feelings are valid, but if you could shift your mindset into knowing that it's not a race, like you have your whole rest of your beautiful life to get those goals, achieve those goals, and create new goals. So like, say you wanted to be like a celebrity, you know how they look like immediately after birth, and that sets up really unrealistic expectations for women. So that's like a little sidebar. That's a vicious cycle right there, because there's so much pressure on them to get back to looking the way they did before, which if they don't, they might not be able to get their roles or their record deals or whatever it is that they had before. So they feel that pressure. They also obviously enjoy the spotlight and believe that they have more attention when they look a certain way. So they have their own toxic mindset, but they also oftentimes will go beyond natural means and do surgeries or what have you, and no judgment, but a lot of times they don't share that information, and that sets up unrealistic standards for general population, and they may think, well, that person looks that way, why can't I? And it comes down to, did you have plastic surgery? Do you have like trainers 24/7? Do you have a dietitian and nutritionists on call so you can look that certain way? And setting up that unrealistic expectation can result in unhealthy eating patterns. And let's be honest, as a postpartum mother, you have to be eating a certain amount of food, and for a number of reasons. If you're breastfeeding, you have to keep your production up. And if that's a goal of yours to continue breastfeeding long term, that's something you have to keep in mind, because if you're going to restrict your eating, it's going to affect your milk supply, and that's just a fact. It's not an opinion. And even if you're not breastfeeding, you're healing. Like, you have a massive wound in your body. If you had a C-section, you have a massive wound on the outside of your body. And guess what? That takes nutrition to help you heal. And aside from all of that, there's a lot of stress on you. You've had physical stress of the pregnancy and the delivery, but now you are dealing with healing at the same time as having sleep deprivation and caring for a whole nother human. And this little human cannot verbalize what they want or need, and you are going to end up feeling stressed out a lot. That's just a fact. And stress creates cortisol. When cortisol levels spike, that can affect your fat production, and because it triggers this fight or flight in your body, and so then you end up your body ends up holding on to more fat to try to brace for impact. Basically, they're like, oh, we're gonna fight or flight, so we have to store all this stuff to keep us safe. So you're fighting your hormones, you're fighting your what you're seeing in social media and traditional media, and what the seeds have been planted in your head since before you were even born. Um, so it's a big fight. So it requires a big like mindset adjustment. So first of all, knowing that the goals you have to look a certain way are valid. If that's important to you, you can first of all shift your mindset there and ask yourself, why is it your goal? Is it your goal because you want to be viewed a certain way, or is it your goal because you want to like run a marathon, let's say, or you want to do some kind of sport, or you just want to be able to keep up with your child? Having a different intention behind the wanting to look a certain way can also make it feel like maybe more fun or less pressure. And asking yourself, why do I feel like I need to look this way so quickly? You know, if you are wanting to look a certain way and knowing you have your whole life to achieve those goals, and once you achieve them, you can make new goals, knowing that there's not a finish line, and being like, you know, I am under a whole lot of stress. I can go slowly. Like, it doesn't make me less of a person to not look like the celebrities do 2 weeks after giving birth. So that is a big mindset shift to make, but I feel like it's a super important one, because once that light bulb goes off in your head, that takes off so much pressure. And guess what happens when you take off pressure from your shoulders? Your cortisol levels can come down a bit. And that is a blessing, because that helps with the fat and everything. So then there is the third tip. Like I said, your goals are valid. So and your mindset shift is important. So if you think about moving forward instead of obsessing about going backward, then you may realize that your body is never going to go back to the way it was. You've given birth, and they say that the like cells that you created for your children, like some certain little percentage stays in you forever. So you're quite literally a different person now. Your DNA has changed. So don't think about going back. You want to think about moving forward. So knowing that the goals you have, they're not impossible, and you don't have to give up on them, but you have to change the way you look at it or approach it. So for example, your core. This is a big area that many postpartum women are like obsessed with. Pre-pregnancy, maybe you didn't think about your pelvic floor at all when you were doing your core work. Maybe you were doing just like 100 sit-ups every day or something like that. Maybe you were holding plank for like, your goal was to hold plank for a minute like every day or something like that. But you were never considering your pelvic floor. First of all, you may have not been engaging your lower abdomen correctly. This is a very huge thing that happens for a huge percentage of women. But now you've given birth. Now your DNA has changed, and you are working on changing your mindset. So when you go and work on your core, you're not going to be like, oh, I'm just going to bang out 100 sit-ups. You're going to think, how am I going to support my pelvic floor while I'm working on my core work? And once you figure that out, and then you go to do your core work, then you're going to feel the connection more. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, I can feel my lower abdomen working. I maybe never felt that before. And so you are going about your exercising in a completely different way because you have given birth and you are now considering things from a different perspective. And bonus, that might make you stronger than you ever were pre-pregnancy. So you might not be bouncing back, but you are becoming, or you are working towards becoming better than and stronger and more connected with your body than you ever were before. So I don't know about you, but I feel like that is like a way better approach than just being like, I need to bounce back and look exactly like I did pre-pregnancy. So let's review those because that was a lot of chit chat. So my first tip was to consider where you are in your journey. What is your body type? How many pregnancies have you had? And what was your fitness level before pregnancy? All of these are factors of your ability to reach those goals postpartum. My second tip is to consider your mindset and try to shift it so you're not worrying about looking like the celebrities do like 2 weeks after pregnancy, not worrying about trying to look like you did pre-pregnancy, maybe not even worrying about trying to fit back into your pre-pregnancy clothes, knowing that things may have shifted, but you can still reach the goals you have, but not worrying about stuff like that and thinking of the fact that you have your whole life to reach your goals, and the bouncing back just shouldn't be your only goal. You might have a goal to, I don't know, lose some weight or lose some inches, and being really kind and maybe not being like, I want to lose this by this date, but like just working towards it. And then once you hit it, you can create a new goal for yourself. And then my third tip was to now consider your whole self, because your whole DNA has changed and you are a different person now. So, the example was, don't just bust out 100 sit-ups. Consider your pelvic floor. It's going to be healthier for you to consider your exercise from that perspective, because that was a lot of trauma on your pelvic floor. And going forward, considering that, it's going to up your game because you maybe weren't considering that pre-pregnancy. So if you are looking at things from that perspective, you may be able to reach your goals way faster and maybe way more connected than ever before. And that takes a lot of stress off of you. So it all works hand in hand. So I hope that was really helpful, at least maybe towards helping you with number 2, changing your mindset. If you have any questions about what I was talking about, please feel free to comment, or you can DM me and we can chit chat. Or if anything I said really resonated with you, let me know in the comments. Don't feel shy. I love to chit chat with you guys, and I want to help you have the most joyful pregnancy and postpartum period ever, so that you at least have a little bit off your shoulders. And then we have this lovely little community so we can lift each other up instead of, feeling judged and feeling like we need to be small and fit some kind of unrealistic standard that is out there. That is BS. All right, so I hope you have a wonderful evening. There won't be a poll tomorrow because I am still doing my hip pain relief series, but you can look out for the poll on Monday to talk about or let me know what you want to learn about. If you want the link to the playlist for the hip pain relief series, let me know. Otherwise, I will be sharing the link once it goes live on the weekend. All right, take care and happy Halloween if you celebrate. Bye for now.